You're listening to The Observing Eye. Pirate radio for the mind. Coming at you fresh from the computer hell cabin.
Hello, you beautiful lot. It's Friday, the 19th of January, 2024, and you are listening to episode 48 of The Observing Eye, coming at you live from the computer hell cabin. As always, I like to begin these episodes with a brief moment of self-reflection. So, let's take a moment to consider the good things that have happened this past week. And now a moment for the not so good. In this episode, I'm going to be talking to you all about personal manifestos and how important I think they are in helping us to move forwards in our personal development and define our goals. Now, when I say manifesto, I don't want any of you to panic. We're not going to get all Marxist. There's no politics. I try and make a concerted effort in this podcast to avoid politics because it's both polarizing and based on opinion. And I am more interested in talking about experience. Now, why do I bring in the idea of a manifesto? So if you remember, if you followed on from the previous weeks, I'm doing a series in January on helping you sustain your resolutions. Let's all have a revolution, baby. Your resolutions in January. And I'm trying to give you some support and guidance on keeping those going forwards in the year. Because we're at the 19th of January, we're about halfway through January. We're over halfway through January. And I think some of that determination starts to fade. Some of the motivation dwindles. And we are here sort of trying to get by with some of these resolutions. Maybe you're finding yourself in that case. I know that was certainly something that I would find myself in January quite regularly. When I set my grand resolutions, and maybe that is the problem, isn't it? Setting those grand resolutions. Now, I appreciate that you may not have come across the idea of a personal manifesto. And your brain may have immediately dived to Karl Marx and the Communist Manifesto, which I know mine certainly did when I heard of the idea. But the idea of a manifesto is that it essentially acts as our compass. It's a declaration of our core values, of our beliefs and our aspirations. It's not just like a statement, but it's a reflection of who we are and who we're aspiring to be. So in that case, it's very personal and it's very powerful. So I wanted to begin by just asking you to indulge me a little bit and imagine that your life is a journey, which I think is fairly easy to do. It kind of feels like one anyway. So along the way in life, we face crossroads, we face challenges, we face moments of great celebration. In these times, when we are, taken slightly off the track, it's very easy for us to lose sight of our north. And this is where the personal manifesto comes in. It supports us in keeping aligned with our values and our goals. It's kind of like painting a self-portrait. So you don't just chuck a tin of paint at the canvas and go, voila, c'est moi. You have to take your time and refine it and finesse it so that you could. I'm not really talking about abstract art so much. More traditional. Think of a Rembrandt or a Van Gogh. Something like that. Something that requires some effort. Yes, that was a dig. And I regret nothing. So think of it like that. You're creating a piece of art in more than a single stroke. And it needs to be created through reflection and through self-discovery. So let's set the scene, shall we? How do we create this manifesto? Well, I would recommend you don't do it on like the bus or in the middle of a supermarket. Not the best places to create a manifesto. Ideally, somewhere quiet where you can close the door and tell people to jog on. That's your first. Set the scene. Create the environment in which you're going to make your manifesto. Nice, quiet place. Somewhere comfortable, somewhere relaxed, somewhere familiar. So you don't, you aren't bombarded by the numinous. Now, there are two ways. It's entirely up to you how you do this. Some people prefer one or the other. You can write it down, pen and paper, old school, how the Victorians used to do it, or how I used to do it up until like the late 90s. Or you can do it digitally. But the thing to remember, if you're doing it digitally, try not to do it on your phone. And if you do it on your phone, turn off all of the notifications, because the last thing you need is Facebook telling you that Simon's cat has, shit on his bed, and all the other crap that comes up with the socials and the phones and the apps and everything else. So turn those notifications off. You don't want distractions. I think that's kind of fairly obvious, but I'm just saying it for point of argument. And then you want to just write down. You want to start writing down stuff that comes into mind. And it's going to require you to look inwards a little bit. So you've got your scene, you're ready, you're reflective, you're looking inwards, you're being introspective. When you create the manifesto, it has to resonate with both your heart and your mind. And this is where it can get a little tricky. It's not about what society expects of you. It's not about what the world expects of you, what your boss, what your partner, what your children expect of you. That isn't what this manifesto is about. It's about what you expect of yourself. Okay? So breathe that in. It's not about what anyone else fucking wants from you. It's what you expect from yourself. It's going to be a tough experience. When I first wrote mine, it took me a while. It wasn't that I'll just sit in the room for a bit and then I'm done. It was days and days of thinking and reflecting and working on it and changing it. And remember, the manifesto is not a fixed thing. It's not a concrete object. It is subject to change at your discretion. But we'll get onto that in a little bit. How do we structure the manifesto then? So it's got to be clear, and it's got to be accessible, and it's got to be easy for you to read when you come back to it. So it doesn't have to be an essay. You don't have to write thousands of words on your core values and beliefs and how you're going to be working with those. Mine, I'm going to give you an example, and I will read you my manifesto as we get to the end of this, so you can get an example, and you can laugh at my values. You can have a jolly good time looking at my values. So yeah, I'll put them up. I'll speak them out, and you can hear clearly. You can hear them because I'm speaking. It's Friday. It's been a long week. My mind becomes the fog. You'll get to listen to my manifesto, and hopefully it will give you some ideas around what you can do yourself and how you can structure it. But mine is 15 bullet points. 15 bullet points. Okay, that's all it is. And I have it on my phone. I used to have a printed copy of it up on the wall, but I don't anymore. When you first get it, it's useful to use it as a totem. But the longer you have it, the more you become used to having it. I would recommend keeping it up somewhere that you can see it, that's visible when you first do it. But I'm digressing. So let's go back to the structure of your manifesto. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of how you might want to structure it. The first thing is that you need to give it some sort of title. Now, you can call it whatever you want, but give it something that kind of captures the essence of it, something that resonates with you. It's got to stick in your mind. So however that works, make it stick. Then you might want to do like a little paragraph, a very brief paragraph at the beginning that sets the tone of the manifesto. Perhaps you can include why you're writing it, or what it means to you, or what your hopes are for how it's going to guide you. So from your introspective point, you should hopefully have a list of core values that you align with. So for each of these values, write a short statement that encapsulates what that value means to you and how you aim to embody it in your life. Okay. Understanding our core values is a tricky one, but with a bit of time and a bit of energy, you'll get to it. I found it was tricky trying to sift through the mist of what were my values and what were external values that were projected onto me from society, parents, friends, bosses, partners, and all the other influences that come at us like a powerful moss. So just, spend a bit of time. That's going to be, I think, your trickiest bit is the core values, trying to discern those, distill them out of the noise that can be our identity sometimes. And then finally, you need to think about what aspirations, because it's all well and good. If we're trying to improve ourselves, we kind of need to have a bit of a goal, where we're going. Because if there's no destination, we're just kind of aimlessly wandering a little bit. And for me, it feels like we have to have a target, a point of focus to aim for in order to concert our efforts into that particular thing, that improvement. Oh, it gets a bit wishy-washy, I mean, no lad, the wishy-washy not for me. So think about those aspirations. So what are your goals? What do you want to achieve in the long term? And this isn't just about work, it's really, I'd rather it weren't about work, really, to be honest. If we're being really open, this is about you. Like, what are your aspirations in yourself personally as a human being? That's your aspiration. Who do I want to become? Not promotions and salaries and all that nonsense. You as a person, that's the important thing. So who do you want to become? That's your aspiration. Write that down. Put it in your manifesto. So that's your manifesto structure. So a little title, some sort of introduction, and then thinking about core values and aspirations. And that's going to be the really hard bit to get down. I want to mention something that I think is important at this stage. And I think when you're constructing your manifesto, and I say this because it just springs to mind from my own experiences when I was doing this, please try not to worry about perfectionism. It does not have to be this like Dead Sea Scroll of wonder that goes up on your wall. This is you. This is a there it is. There's the word salad. This is a representation of you. So cross things out, make comments in the margin, get a stream of consciousness going, let all of that stuff flow out of your mind. Turn off the self-censoring analytical bit and get into your heart. Who are you? What do you want? How could you be better? These are the questions. Okay? How do we put this into practice? Well, keep it where you can see it and you have to refer to it. And you have to make sure that you keep it in your mind, because the manifesto is going to act as a totem and it's going to bring you back to that true north when things change, when your circumstances change, when stuff happens, when we eventually just deviate from the direction we set just as our own accord because life happens. Use it as a marker. It's going to just bring you back. And I mean, I think it's a good exercise to contemplate it. Spend a bit of time each evening, just a couple of minutes. Just read it a few times. Let it sink in. Try and memorize it. You want this stuff to stick because you spent all this time defining your values, reflecting and understanding what it is that you want and what your aspirations are and what drives you and who you want to be as a human being. Keep that in mind, because life, the universe and everything is going to try and change that. Not through any sort of malice, but just because that's how it goes. The world has expectations and it wants us to be something else. Sometimes, without realizing it, we drift into those expectations and they don't align with our values and it makes us miserable. Remember what your values are and study your manifesto. Take a moment every day. Study the manifesto. That's all we have to do. And it'll sink in and you'll get there and it'll be good. As I said earlier, I'm going to give you my manifesto now. Hopefully it'll get you some ideas on how to put yours together. Okay. So this is very personal. So I'm putting it out into the ether. So treat it kindly, please. 15 bullet points. Here we go. Number 1, I am bold in my thinking and listen closely to my heart. Number 2, I treat myself with respect and love. I care for the person I am today and the person I will be tomorrow. Number 3, I find gratitude for all that has been given to me, even in those things I did not ask for. In everything, I give thanks. Number 4, I walk on the path that I set myself, not the one that others lay out before me. Number 5, I treat my time like the gift that it is. I do not squander it on futile things. Number 6, I do not find shame in my mistakes. I use them as lessons from which I can learn. Number 7, I am not set back by obstacles. I strive to find my way around them. Number 8, in my actions I am courageous. I choose that which lies outside my place of comfort. Number 9, I allow myself to be myself. In this, I am honest and authentic and express who I am to the world. Number 10, I am the owner and heir of my choices in life. I am responsible for what they bring and am mindful that this can be good or bad. Number 11, I act with kindness and know that unkindness from others only comes from their own suffering. In knowing this, I open my heart to them. Number 12, I recognize that nothing is permanent and cherish experiences, for I know they will not last. Number 13, I do not fear change, for from change can come wondrous and unexpected things. Number 14, I am concerned only with that over which I have control. For all else, I am a leaf on the wind. Number 15, I exist in the present because it is only here that happiness resides. And on that note, that's all I have to say on the subject of personal manifestos. I have really gone into it today, but I hope, as always, that it's been useful and that that's a reasonable guide for you to go away and write your own manifesto and to spend a bit of time reflecting and considering your values and your aspirations and your goals as a person. Who are you and who do you want to become? Those are your questions. I'd like to say a deep thank you to all of you who have chosen to spend your time with me today. It is always, always appreciated. I love each and every one of you. A big welcome to our new subscribers on Substack. I shan't say your names because we have GDPR and it would get me in a lot of trouble. But thank you for your subscriptions. It is deeply appreciated. Your support means the world to me. And, it makes a real difference and makes me feel like I'm doing some positive out here. So thank you. Thank you, darlings. It is grand. It is very kind. Thank you. As it's Friday, I'd like to wish you all a fabulous weekend. Perhaps if you're not busy, you could spend some time working on your manifesto. And if you already have a manifesto, then I heartily salute you. And don't forget, we are on most of the platforms where you can get your podcasts. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/@theobservingeye. And we're on our home at Substack, which is just theobservingeye.com. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at theobservingeye as our handle. So we're all over the electric interweb, doing clips and chatting about stuff that doesn't necessarily come up in the podcast. So go and check those out if it piques your interest. Thanks again for joining me, everybody. Wishing you a fabulous weekend. Much love, and I'll catch you soon.
You've been listening to The Observing Eye. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I hope it's been useful. And if you're interested in any more of my writing or work around psychology, philosophy, and general day-to-day living, please go and take a look at my Substack, which is theobservingeye.com. And that's I as in the letter, not I as in the gelatinous organ through which you see. Take care, everybody. Much love, and I'll catch you soon.